Football, one of the toughest sports to play. And I think football's like America. You have to have hard work, focus, determination, grittiness, and toughness to get what you want in this country. My next guest is none other than quarterback Jim McMahon of BYU and the Chicago Bears. Jim exemplifies all those qualities and so much more. He's unafraid to say what is on his mind, and he says what he says, doesn't care what anybody thinks about it. So we're going to take a deep dive into Jim's career, how he got started in football, what his career was like at BYU, what was it like to play in Chicago for the Chicago Bears and win Super Bowl 20, play for Mike Ditka, get drafted by Mike Ditka and George Halas, and then go on his career to other places like San Diego and Philadelphia. And we're also going to talk about all the issues he's had, his dementia, suffering with that, a lot of concussions and injuries in his career. So we're going to talk to Jim about all those different things, what he's up to now. I hear he's doing a documentary, so it's going to be really cool to talk about that and see what he's up to. So without further ado, here's Jim McMahon.
Our world is changing faster and faster. Humans are constantly on the go. Over 70% of people are not happy in some way. They're living in the shadows of fear, especially in their careers and life. Are we humans doomed? I don't think so. And that's where I come in. My name is Joseph Stanley Reichowski, otherwise known as Joe Woo. Each week, I seek to uncover what it takes to truly live your life to the fullest by finding out through interviewing people what were their failures and what did it take for them to reach success. Their stories are truly inspiring, and perhaps they'll inspire you to let go of your fear and live your career and life to the fullest.
All right, everybody. I have the great legend, Jim McMahon, with us here. Mr. McMahon, thanks so much for joining me on my show here. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. Welcome.
Hey, my pleasure. No worries.
Awesome. So you were born, this is what's interesting, is you were born in New Jersey, lived in California, and then you moved to Utah. So what was that like? You know, the New Jersey life, California, and then Utah, which is really tough.
Well, I was born in Jersey City, and
Gotcha.
I only lived there for I think 2 years. Moved out to California when I was 2 or maybe 3. So I don't really remember Jersey at all.
Right.
And California's where I grew up. I lived there for 13 years. That's where I learned to play sports. Learned about life, and then moved to Utah. And then it was kind of a throwback. From where I grew up in San Jose. San Jose back then, there was no Silicon Valley. None of the tech stuff was happening. It was nothing but orchards and nurseries. It was mostly a migrant farm working town.
Wow.
And so the majority of my friends were Mexican, blacks, and we were kind of the minority back then. So
Right.
I loved living there then. You couldn't pay me to live in California now, but
No, I agree.
and then moving to Utah, it was definitely a culture shock. It was,
Right.
Not only the type of football that they were playing, because in California, all we did was throw the ball. We got to throw it all the time. We had 7-on-7 passing leagues in the summer. And so I got to learn a lot about throwing the ball back then. And I go to Utah, we're running the wishbone. I don't know if anybody even remembers the wishbone formation.
I do. Yep.
3 guys in the backfield behind me. And then I have to fake and run. And I was not much of a runner. So it was a struggle my junior year when I first got to Utah. But my senior year, they changed the offense a little bit, so I got to throw a little bit more.
Yeah,
it was definitely a culture shock going from Jersey to California to Utah.
Right. And you definitely did amazing in Utah. But I think you were, from what I remember reading, you were a punter, freshman year or something? And then you became quarterback, what was that like to just was there any indication you were going to do that? Or were you going to you just said, hey, I'm going to start throwing the ball?
No, I wanted to make the team. Had I not played my last 2 years of high school in Utah, I probably would have never made it to BYU.
Wow.
Yeah, all I wanted to do back when I was younger was play baseball. Baseball was
Right.
my first love. I still enjoy the game. And so I wanted to go to a school that would let me play both sports. And I
Wow.
went back to Nebraska, Oklahoma State, you know, a lot of the big schools back then. And they
Right.
all said, no, you're not playing both sports. And I had two options, BYU and Nevada, Las Vegas. And of
Wow.
course, I chose Vegas. And my dad said, no, you're not going to Vegas. At the time, he said, it's not a big enough school,
Right.
this and that. And I said, Pops, you know, I'd like to have a little fun too in college. But
Sure.
it ended up working out. I didn't have a lot of fun in 5 years, but
Right.
Friday nights or Saturday afternoons were a hell of a lot of fun. But the rest of the time, it was a struggle.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. And then you do well at BYU, you know, player of the year there, and I think WAC conference, and you get drafted by Chicago, which is something. Was that ever something you ever envisioned, you know, to go to the Chicago Bears and play for, you know, Mike Ditka and obviously George Halas?
No, because all indications were when I was coming out of college was I was going to Baltimore.
Wow.
The Colts had the fourth
Yep.
pick, and I've been back to Baltimore a couple of visits. I was having dinner and lunch with Johnny Unitas at his restaurant. He was
Wow.
telling me all about the city and how much fun I'm going to have. And I had forgotten, I had told my agent I really didn't want to go to Baltimore.
Right.
So at the time, Baltimore had a running back. I believe it was Curtis Dickey,
Right.
and they were having trouble signing him. And so my agent told the Colts, "Don't bother to draft me because they'll never sign me." But he didn't tell me that. So, and
Wow.
I'd forgotten I had mentioned to him that I didn't want to go to Baltimore.
Right.
And so on draft day, you know, Pete Rozelle stood up and said, with the fourth pick, the Colts take quarterback. So I'm thinking it's going to be me. And he says,
Right.
Art Schlichter, Ohio State.
Wow.
And I was relieved and shocked at the same time because, you know, I
Yeah.
hadn't gotten the news. And then my agent called me right away. He goes, "What'd you think?" And I said, "Well, what happened? I thought I was going there." He goes, "Well, you told me you didn't want to go there."
Right.
And so he goes, "I told him don't draft you." So I said, "Okay, good." Then the phone rings next, and it was the Bears who was picking had the fifth
Wow.
pick. And so I had no idea about Chicago. The only thing I knew about Chicago was that my folks had met in Chicago during the Korean War. I think they were both in the Army.
Oh, neat.
My older brother was born in Chicago. And other than that, the only thing I remember about Chicago was Brian's song. You know, I
Yeah.
watched the movie Brian's song. That's the only thing I
Yeah.
knew about the Bears.
Wow.
And you know, Mike Ditka had just been hired as the new coach, so
Right.
we came in together, and we had some fun, but we had our troubles too in the 7 years that I was there.
Sure, sure. Yeah, no, I know it's tough. I mean, I know you both were so competitive. I remember, you know, seeing the articles and reading the stuff, and I know how competitive you were. But I love the story though, and I hear this all the time. And I was just watching the Bears thing on Netflix, and you know, when you came in, you're in the limo, and you came with the beer the first time. I guess the first function, that was awesome. I love that, and I guess that kind of didn't, you know, rub them the right way, so to speak. But that was you being you. I love it.
Well, what happened was, you know, it was 4 or 5 hours after I just gotten drafted, right? So they called me up,
Right.
"Can you come to Chicago?" So I get on a plane, take a 3-hour plane ride. Now I'm in a limousine for an hour, and there's beer in the limo, you know. And so it wasn't like I was 18 years old, you know.
Right, right,
I was
exactly.
almost 22 or 3, whatever the hell it was.
Right.
And I figured, hey, they're here, might as well have a couple. So I had a few pops, and then as I was getting out, I wasn't even thinking about the press, you know.
Yeah.
It didn't even cross my mind. And
Sure.
so I get out of the limo, and there was a couple beers left on the string, so I grabbed those with me, and all of a sudden, woof! I get bombarded by the press, and yeah, they had a few choice comments for me. And then Coach Ditka actually happened to be walking in the building when I was coming in,
That's
and he
great.
just turned around, and he looked at me, he says, "So you're my first pick, huh?" And I said, "I guess so." And that was my
Wow.
first meeting with Coach Ditka. Yeah. Then I had to
Wow.
go sit and wait for Coach Halas. He was taking
Right.
a nap, so I had to wait for him to wake up.
That must have been something. Wow. So what was that run like in Chicago? I mean, I came there in 84. We moved in June of 84. So it was right on the cusp of everything happening. And I was, you know, really getting into football at that point. So it was just perfect timing for me. You know, we get the Super Bowl victory. It was amazing. But what was that run like for that number of years, that level of success you guys had? It must have been magical.
Well, after the first couple of years, yeah, it was, because we sucked in 82 and
Yeah.
83. We were not very good.
Right.
Defensively, we were okay. You know, they were starting to get that the 46 down, and we're starting to plug the right players into that defense. But offensively, I don't know how Walter lasted the previous 6 years before I got there.
Right.
I'd hand him the ball and I'd watch him run. You'd think he gained 30 yards, but he'd only gained one.
Right. Right.
He's
Sideways.
bouncing off guys from sideline to sideline. He just did not like to go down. And so, but once we started shoring up the offensive line in '83,
Right.
and then '84, of course, we had a great chance to go to the Super Bowl in '84.
Yeah.
I got hurt, I think game 9 or 10. I tore part of my kidney off, and so I missed the rest of the season. But we ended up going to the NFC Championship game that year. The following year, of course, we go 15-1, win it all. The year after that, we were 14-2. It wasn't like we went away. I mean, we still had the best team in football.
Yeah.
But we ended up losing. That year I missed, I think, 8 games or maybe 10 games.
Right.
My shoulder was all screwed up. I had hurt my shoulder the first game of the season. I should have never played again, but I kept trying to play with no labrum, and it was very, very frustrating. And then we ended up losing the first playoff game at home. We had home field advantage 4 straight years.
Yeah.
And we didn't take advantage of that. '87, I came back, another strike. I had to strike my rookie year in '82, and then another strike in '87. Still had the best record in the league, and we lose the first round of the playoffs again at home to Washington. Washington finally figured out how to beat us.
Yeah.
Block 8 guys and run 1-2-man routes, and you can beat us. But
wow.
And then 1988, I think we were 12-4, and lose the NFC Championship game at home. So it wasn't like the Bears went away after '85. We still had the best team in the league. We just didn't do well at home in the playoffs.
Right. Do you think if Coach Ryan didn't leave, and I think Wilbur Marshall left, after the Super Bowl, you think you guys would have probably repeated? I always felt like, I remember you went 14-2, and I was devastated when Washington beat us, and I was like, but I always felt like maybe if they were there, would have been different.
Oh, I think Wilbur was still there. I don't think Wilbur left till '87.
Right. You're right. That's right. '87. Yeah.
So, there was no doubt we had the best team in '86 as well.
Right.
And just like I said, you work all year to get home field advantage, to give you an advantage in the playoffs, and then we pissed it away. So I was very upset about that, and as were a lot of the other teammates and fans.
Right. What an offensive line, though. I mean, it was Covert, Bortz, Hilgenberg, Theron Van Horn, and those guys were something. I mean, it must have been great, the protection, and can't imagine what that would have been like with those guys. There were a couple of Hall of Famers, too.
One finally got in. Jimbo got in 2 years ago. Without those guys, we did something that nobody's ever done in football, which was lead the league in rushing 4 straight years.
Wow.
And it's never been done before or since. And so that's a credit to those guys. And because everybody knew we were going to run the damn ball, and we were still able to do that. And so that's a credit to those guys up front. And they don't get the credit that they deserve. I think at least 4 of them should be in the Hall.
Yeah.
And a good argument for the other guy. Right now we're trying to get another teammate, Steve McMichael, into the Hall of Fame. He's got great statistics. He's battling a bad fight with ALS right now.
Yeah, I saw that.
Sad to see. One of the biggest, strongest guys, toughest guys ever played in this game, and he's smaller than me now, and it's tough to see.
I know, I saw that. It was just devastating watching that, but he's got a great attitude. That's a good thing.
No doubt. I mean, a lot of us would not be here with what's going on with him, but he's a tough guy. He's hanging in there.
Yeah. I think what I love about you most is, you don't concern yourself with what people view you as. You're what you are. And that's what I loved. I think as a kid, that's what got me so much more excited, watching football, was like, you go out there and you wouldn't care, you wear the headbands and stuff like that. So you never pretended. So how do you not worry about others? Because there's always going to be criticism, like you said, the media, coaches and things like that. How do you handle all that?
Oh, I learned, early on in my life, people are going to love you or hate you. It doesn't matter.
Right.
And a lot of them, they don't know you anyway. So why let, people that you wouldn't even ask advice for, why would you take, criticism from? I mean, it's just, I never worried about what other people thought. It didn't bother me. What mattered to me was the guys in my huddle, the guys on my team. And, they knew what I was doing. They knew that I knew what I was doing. I got in trouble a lot. They thought I was just doing things to piss Mike Ditka off.
Right.
I was trying to win ball games, and
Right.
Mike Ditka was not an offensive coordinator, and he thought he was. He was a
Yep.
tight end. He called plays like a tight end.
Yep.
I would have loved to play with him. He was a great football player. He played the game the way it was supposed to be played. And had he been in my huddle, he'd have understood me a lot better.
Right. No, that's great.
He gave Halas a lot of trouble when he was a player. A lot of coaches, they forget what happens when they play, when they get up into the front office or being coaches.
Right. I remember that.
He actually left Chicago because Halas wouldn't pay him.
That's right. I think he went to Philly and then ended up in Dallas. Yeah.
He went to
yeah.
Philly, yes.
Wow.
And when we had guys holding out, he'd be all upset. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute, you did the same thing.
Right. You forget that quickly.
Their memory dwindles when they become coaches.
Yeah, yeah, they forget very easily about stuff. I know. I mean, just watching you too was something else. I mean, you put it on the line every single practice and game. I mean, I always said you were like Michael Jordan in Chicago, like never took a game off. I mean, I know you were injured and things like that, but I mean, going in that Minnesota game, the Super Bowl year, with what you went through, you went at a full force. Is that just your work ethic you kind of had since you were little, or did you develop that over time just to go full force all the time?
Oh, that's how my dad taught me how to play. I mean, whatever sport we were playing, he always said, give it your all. If there's time on the clock, there's time to do something positive. When you pull out a game, or at least get something positive out of. You don't give up.
Right.
You just don't lay down. You keep fighting, and that's always been my thing. If I'm physically able to walk out on the field, I'm going to play. And,
right.
A lot of times I wasn't able to. And being a quarterback, your throwing arm's pretty damn important.
Yep.
And I was lucky to even continue my career after '86. I finally went to, I think it was week 10 or 11 or bye week in 1986, and I finally went to a doctor that knew what he was doing. Frank Jobe. He was the LA Dodgers doctor and Rams doctor, great shoulder and elbow guy. And within 5 minutes, he told me, "Hey, your arm's coming out of the socket." I said,
"Wow,
I've been telling these guys this for 10 weeks." And
jeez.
He says, "You need surgery. You should have had surgery right away." And he goes, "You're going to be lucky if I could repair this." And even after the surgery, he said, "I don't know how long, my repair is going to last." He goes, "Most of the time I do this on pitchers, and they're not getting slammed to the ground all the time." So
my gosh,
I was very lucky to be able to come back and play after my surgery. And our team doctor, actually, who would tell me there's nothing wrong all year, said he flew out to watch the surgery.
Right.
And as soon as they opened me up, I mean, they cut me from the top of my shoulder down to my armpit. And as soon as he opened me up, our doctor went, "Oh my God, he wasn't lying."
Wow.
This is what Frank Jobe told me when I woke up. I go, "Why would I be lying? I mean, I know my body.
Right.
I mean, this is how I make my living with my arm, and I can't move it half the time."
Yeah.
But he did a hell of a job to repair as much as he could. It still bugs the hell out of me. I've had 3 different surgeries since then, and it still hurts. It's never been the same since '86.
Yeah, and I guess back then too, like in the '80s, even with concussions too, there really wasn't a lot of good stuff about all that. You just really kind of said, "Okay, fix you up or rest and get back in there," and you really didn't dive into it. Now, I mean, they've got everything, the medical tents and everything. So it's interesting.
I don't even know what they do in those tents. But back then, if you can follow the doctor's finger,
right?
Okay, you're good. Tape an aspirin to your helmet. Go back in.
Little smelling salt, and you're good. Get back in there.
Yeah.
Yep. So I know in 2012, sensitive topic here, you were diagnosed with dementia, which is unfortunate. And I know we talked earlier about Steve McMichael and ALS, and unfortunately Dave Duerson, unfortunately took his own life because of the CTEs and stuff. How are you guys handling all this though? Because I know it's got to be tough. I can't even imagine putting myself in your guys' shoes, putting on the line every week, going out there full force, and now you're dealing with a lot of these things later in life. So how do you deal with it and get through it? Because you even had headaches for so long too.
Yeah, I was in a bad way. I was actually with Dave Duerson about a month before he had killed himself.
Wow.
And he was a little quieter than he normally was, but I would have never in a million years, thought that he would do that. And then I started having the same thoughts myself. My head started hurting so bad. I was spending weeks at a time just in a dark room. And had I had a weapon, I probably wouldn't be here. And
wow.
luckily, I did a Sports Illustrated cover that mentioned it, and a couple of doctors in New York saw the article, called me and said, come to New York, we think we can help. And so I ended up flying there, spent a week there. And I said, why do I have to spend a week? He said, well, because we think if what's going on is going on, it's you know, our adjustment's not going to last. And sure enough,
Right.
I mean, the first time he did it, within probably 2 minutes, I mean, I couldn't see, my head was just full of fluid, and couldn't really talk. And within 2 minutes of his first adjustment, I mean, I explained it like it was like a toilet flushing. I could just actually feel this fluid leaving my brain.
Wow.
And the relief was instant. And he goes, well, you know, I don't think this is going to last because it's been out of whack. Your neck and everything's been out of whack for so long. It's going to pull it back out at some point. Sure enough, that night, right in the middle of the night, I don't even know what time it was. I was in excruciating pain. It come out of whack again.
Wow.
And the next morning, they actually had to sedate me to lay down on the table. I couldn't move. But then he adjusted it again. I don't know how many times he adjusted it that week. But he said, the longer I can keep it in place, the longer it will stay in place.
Right.
And so I'm up to now about 3 to 4 months. I can go feeling pretty good. And
That's
as
great.
soon as I start having my headaches and fogginess and forgetting things, I give him a call and I meet him in New York. I'm okay for the next 3 or 4 months. But at least now I know what's happening with these guys. These other guys are, you know, we're proud people. You know, we don't like to, you know, look for and ask for help.
Right.
We think we can figure everything out. But when your head starts messing with you, you're in no man's land. You don't know what to do.
Right. Wow. Well, we're grateful you're still here and grateful you've got it all figured out. That's awesome. And thankful that, you know, yes, it's every, I guess, 3 to 4 months, but that's good. And I also too, now, I guess you're working on Mad Mac documentary, I think.
Yeah. My producer's been working on it it's been about 2 years now, I think.
Wow.
You know, when he first approached me, I said, you know, what are you going to do that hasn't been done already? And,
right.
he said, I want to talk to some different people. You know, I want to get some different perspectives. And I said, okay, go ahead. I've seen the first half of the film. It's mostly from, you know, my childhood up into the Superbowl.
Right.
I think the second half will be mostly what I've been doing after football. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of it. I've only seen half, and I just talked to the producer the other day. He sent it to his lawyers to, you know, he's got his NFL films. Got to deal with that.
Right.
And he goes, you got to get their approval. He goes, then he'll send it to me to get my final approval, and hopefully it'll be out shortly.
Great. Yeah, looking forward to that. And what else are you up to? You have anything else in the pipeline that you're working on?
Well, I'm also in the cannabis business with some former NFL players. Kyle Turley, he's our president. Our company's called Revenant.
Nice.
And we're based out of Ramona, California right now, and looking to expand. I think we've got some meetings here in Arizona next week. So I think we'll be able to come bring our brand to Arizona, and looking forward to bringing it to the rest of the country.
Awesome.
It's really saved not only me, saved Kyle and our other partner, Eben Britton, another ball player.
Right.
You know, we were all on those painkillers and the things that actually do kill you for years and years and years. And I did have to break down and take a couple painkillers when I had my ankle surgery 9 months ago. I mean, I tried to go without it, but I think the infection was probably the worst part. My foot got infected and had to have 2 more surgeries. And so I had to eat a couple pain pills. But other than that, I haven't had one since, I think, 2004. So you know, cannabis is definitely the way to go for me and for most people.
Yeah.
And other than that, you know, I've got 5 grandkids. I got 1 on the way.
Oh, wow. Congrats.
I got a new fiance. We've been together for about 6 years now, and looking forward to spending more time with her. We've got a place down in Mexico, and that's where she's from. And we've been spending a lot of time down there, especially with the way things are going around here with your buddy from Delaware.
Yeah, I know. I know, right? It's been bad.
Well, everybody's coming north. There's nobody there. It's great.
I know. People are moving out. So it's, and I'm not too far from where he's at. So it's, when he's in town, it's a mess with traffic and everything. But yeah, hopefully things will get better price wise and everything. Cause I know people are having a tough go of it now, but that's what my wife and I talked about.
He's on permanent vacation, this guy. So who knows?
Yeah, my wife said Mexico or Canada, maybe. So might be a good option. Might be joining you down
I
there.
don't know about Canada. That guy up there is just as bad.
Yeah, I know. That's what I've heard. So be a little bit cooler at least. So that's the only, I guess, good side to it. So, well, this has been fun. This has been awesome. I really appreciate your time. My last question for you really is just simple: is if you had one piece of advice for somebody getting into football, what would that be? If you could offer one like single thing to say, hey, this is what you should do.
Wait until you're a junior in high school, at least.
Yeah.
You know, physically, you're not ready to play. You're not ready to put on a helmet and start hitting people. That's for sure.
Right.
The doctor I deal with in New York, he sees 150 kids a year that shouldn't play any sports. He said their necks and their heads are so bad already.
Gee.
Just
Right.
from, I mean, even playing soccer. I mean, heading the ball, young kids heading the
Yeah.
ball. It's
Hit the
not
ball
good.
good.
I mean, your brain is sitting on it's roaming around on fluid. Nothing. So when your body suddenly stops, your brain's going to hit your skull.
Right.
And until you're at least a junior in high school, your body's physically able to put on a helmet and do those things. I don't think you need to play when you're 5, 6, 7 years old. I mean,
Yeah.
that right there, that's 10 years of non-contact, which would be great. You can still
Oh
learn.
yeah.
You
Right.
can learn the fundamentals, which seem to be be going away.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can learn that every part of the game, playing the flag league or whatever they're doing these days.
Right. Yeah. Flag
Because
football.
if you have talent, colleges are going to find you. Doesn't matter
Right.
where you're at. Same with the pros. You know, not everybody in the pro roster is from Alabama or USC or somebody like that.
Right.
The guys from North Dakota, I mean, places I've never even heard of
Right.
that they
Yeah.
find talent. So,
Yeah.
and then plus you give kids a chance to be kids. You know, right now a lot of these kids are playing their one sport 12 months a year. I mean, you
Oh,
can't.
it's terrible.
I think these parents just see dollar signs, and
Yeah.
not every kid is going to make it to the pros. Just so let them be kids and do what they want to do. Play all different sports.
Yeah.
Football is a great sport. You learn a lot of life lessons in football. You learn how to deal with people, adversity. It's just
Everything.
a lot of different things that are great for young kids.
Yeah, no, I agree with you totally. I see the parents push it so much, and they're in these peewee leagues. We were driving by a field the other day. It's like, oh, they're doing 2 days at high school. No, it was like little peewee kids, and I'm like, what are they doing? It's it's hot, and I'm like, and they look like they were hitting each other. And they look like they're maybe 6 years old, and I'm like, what's going on here?
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, flag football.
I'm hoping I've told my kids, don't let them play. Don't let them play. Let them play baseball or soccer or something that. Let them be active, but there's no need to be physical when you're that small.
I agree with you. No, that's great advice. It really is great advice. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Jim McMahon, everybody, this has been a pleasure down memory lane. We appreciate you taking the time. We're thankful for you coming on.
Hi to all you Philly fans out there. I spent 3 years there, had a great time.
Yes.
Wish you guys
Philly
luck.
was awesome. It was great having you out here. I went to a couple games when you were here, so it was great. It's not too far away, and Philly still loves you, I guarantee it. Because every time I turn around, they're like, "Oh, I'm Jim McMahon," and they forget a minute, and they're like, "Oh, that's right, it was great," and they light up, and they knew you left it on the field all the time. So that's the memory everybody has.
Well, that's all I could ask for.
Yep. Well, thank you, Jim, and we appreciate it.
All right, take care. Have a good day.
Take care.
What did you think? Was that not awesome? That was so much fun. Such a huge trip down memory lane for me. Growing up, I lived in Chicago, went to many Bears games, watched Jim McMahon play, and just loved his grittiness and toughness every single week. Watching him battle through injuries, watching him have amazing comebacks, and then obviously he came to Philadelphia, so I had another chance to watch him play and cheer him on. But I think one of the biggest takeaways that we can all take from Jim is that he didn't care what you thought. He didn't care what anybody thought. He played the game the way he thought it was supposed to be played. Hard work, determination, grittiness, and toughness. And he just didn't care. And I think a lot of you can learn a lot from that. You got to stop caring what other people think, what other people say about you. Jim just went out there, said what he said, and he meant it. And he makes no apologies at all, which I think is so refreshing to hear somebody talk like that. Doesn't hide behind anything, doesn't sugarcoat anything. I think what was awesome too was his deep dive into his injuries, talking about those, talking about his battle with dementia, and it's unfortunately very unfortunate. So many players, there's been players that have taken their lives. I mean, we're very fortunate that Jim is still here and he's battling through things, but he's doing great from what it seems like. You know, he had some ankle surgery, so he's hobbling around a little bit, but check out some of those golf clips where he was hobbling around on a scooter hitting golf ball, and he's still playing, he's still going full force. And it was great to hear about his documentary coming up, Mad Mac, which is going to be really neat to see. But I really took a lot away, and the work ethic he had from early on from his dad. He didn't know any other way to play but hard and play through injuries. I think a lot of us get scared so often, so quickly. We stop right away, and you got to go push that fear and pain. You got to go past it. Got to push, and that's what he did. And he won a Super Bowl. He actually won 2 Super Bowls. So think about that. So Jim McMahon, hats off to you. Thank you so much, Mad Mac, for being a part of this interview. Loved every minute of it, and you're a true gem out there. We love you and appreciate it, and we'll see you next time on the Career and Life Show, everybody. Take care.